Good morning, you guys. Happy Sunday. It is I, Becca Lori Hector, here with Growing Gratitude. Good morning, you guys. I am super duper low on spoons this morning, but I am here with gratitude because it's important. So if you're new to Growing Gratitude, this is my attempt to very publicly and on a weekly basis be grateful for the things that I have in my life and attempt to grow the gratitude in my life. And my hope is that if I set this example and you guys join me on a weekly basis, maybe you'll create a habit too, and you can grow the gratitude in your life. So welcome to Growing Gratitude. I'm Becca Lori Hector, as always, and it is Sunday morning, and I am uncomfortable and half asleep. I'm losing my voice and all kinds of fun things. Good morning, Joe. Morning, Bernard. This morning's gratitude I very almost canceled, just so that you guys know. Yesterday I was real close to just saying, you guys, next week, sorry. But then I realized that the reason I was so tired and everything and so low on spoons was something that I really had to be grateful for. So maybe I ought to just shut my face and get up a half hour early and do my gratitude like a good person. And so I did, because it really doesn't take that much time and it doesn't take that much energy. And but what it does do is really remind my brain that things aren't always bad. And as someone who's so prone to anxiety and depression, reminding my brain that there are things that aren't so bad in my life is super important for my mental health. So I'm here, and I have stories, I guess, for you. I have lots of things on my list of things that I could be grateful for this week. Unit 1 started this week. I'm so proud of everybody in it. It went really well. You guys joined the group. So now we're all this squished in group of us, some of us who have taken the whole course, some of us who are just starting, and it is going to be an amazing group of people. So I am excited for that. That was a big gratitude for me earlier in the week. But this week, really, my whole entire gratitude piece has to go to this whole Antonio finger situation. So I'm just going to do gratitude about that for a few minutes. It's probably going to be shorter than normal because I'm pushing myself a little bit and I'm tired. So here we go. All right. So yesterday, you guys, was surgery day. Woo! So it was. We were closed, of course, this week for the food truck because we were having to do all the prep things for surgery, like get all the financial stuff in place and make sure Antonio had to have a COVID test and like all these weird little things that had to happen before he could go into surgery. So Saturday it was at 1:00. We went. So we have to drive about an hour or so, a little more than an hour to get to the hospital. And it was in the afternoon. So it wasn't such a rush morning. And that was really nice that we were able to kind of leave not at like 6:00 in the morning, which was great for me and pretty good for Antonio too, because he got to spend some time with the dogs in the morning and make sure they were all settled before he disappeared for the day, which is always something that gives him a little anxiety. So that was good. And then we had to be at the hospital like 2 hours before the surgery. And it was like the airport, like, you need me 2 hours before. The two of us were like, it's a finger, like, right? You have to like this HIPAA cleanse. They make you wash before you have surgery, your whole body a couple of times. It's like antibacterial and stuff like that. No perfumes and no dyes and all kinds of things like that. So we did that stuff. And I was like, it's just your finger. It was such a weird thing. But anyway, so we did all the procedures and he didn't eat and he didn't drink and all that fun stuff. And then we got down the mountain to the hospital and they started checking us in. So surprise, it's Saturday. They wanted to squeeze him in on a Saturday because it was getting really long. But like it's been like 3 weeks since he hurt his finger and they didn't want it to atrophy and stuff like that. So they did it for a Saturday, which means that like the hospital was at like half staff on Saturday, which was cool for some reasons and not cool for other reasons. First of all, it was pretty cool that the hospital was way empty. Like there weren't that many other surgeries scheduled. All of the places that we had to go were pretty empty. And that was dope because it was quiet and there weren't that many people and that made it easier for me. But still, morning Ross, morning Morgan, if I didn't say hi. And then, so there we were. Now, part of it that sucked is that when you go into the main entrance, which is where you're supposed to go ahead and register for that you're here for surgery, that part is closed in the weekends. And so they have you register through the emergency room. So we had to go through the emergency room to get him registered. And of course, we had to wait there because some of the staff that would be helping us was also running the emergency room. Shocker. So we waited there for a little bit. And while we were there, it was really crazy. Like, I've been to emergency rooms a bunch of billion times. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've been to the emergency room in my lifetime, right? But the majority of those visits were into a New York City emergency room. And a New York City emergency room and an emergency room just about anywhere else are markedly different. So even though the emergency room was full to them and packed and like crazy to them, to me, it looked like there were only like 3 or 4 other people waiting. And I've been in emergency rooms where I couldn't find a seat, right? So this felt way normal to me and way humanitarian and all kinds of good things. And so that was okay. But of course, as we're sitting there, some guy comes running in and yelling, like, help me, it's an emergency. And so everybody went running out into the parking lot, and they came running back in with a code 4, which if you guys watch any kind of emergency TV here in the United States, code 4 means you're gone. Like, they need to do CPR, you're not breathing, your heart's not working, that kind of stuff. So we had a code 4 out in the parking lot. They wheeled him right through the waiting room of the emergency room to get him in real fast. And it was cool and scary at the same time. So first, it was super dope to see the team come through, because they had the man on the stretcher, and then they had like 8 people around it, and this one amazing female who, I don't know if she was an RN or a PA or a doctor or what, but she was about my size, little lady, and she was on top of this big man and like full body CPR. Like, her whole body, her hair was going, everything. And she's on top of this cart that is flying through the emergency room. And I just thought to myself, wow, that's pretty impressive. I was impressed, right? But then, of course, my brain, being my brain, goes to where it goes. And I go, oh my God, the guy he's with doesn't even know his name. And Antonio's like, what if it's his Lyft driver? Imagine you're a Lyft or an Uber driver, and this guy just passes out in your vehicle. Anyway, so then I started to think about, wow, like, how crazy is it, right? That life can, and I've had it before. I mean, I had it happen to me already, that life can just change for you in an instant that way, right? Like, I started to think about his family and the people that were going to get phone calls that he was like code 4 in the hospital, come down and see him. Maybe you'll see him. And I was just thinking about how in an instant that man's life had changed, and how in an instant his whole family's life was going to change just because of this thing, right? And here Antonio and I are just sitting here witnessing it, waiting to go for his silly broken finger. And so there was a moment of gratitude in that, where it was like, we had to wait a little bit extra because everybody was dealing with this man, trying to save his life and all of this stuff. And so when we went back to actually register, when they called him back to get him into the computer, the lady was so apologetic. Sorry, you had to wait. We had an emergency. And Antonio was like, we saw it come in. Please, like, he needed your attention. So what? We had to wait a few extra minutes for my finger, right? And so that was okay. And so we got up to surgery just a little bit late, but not too late. And they did the whole hook him up thing, get him undressed, put in the IV, do the whole thing, blood pressure and the oxygen on his finger and all of that. So we went through all of that. And then we were just waiting for the doctor to get there and the anesthesiologist to get there. And then, of course, they came in and they said, okay, say goodbye to him and all that. And I hate this. I hate waiting. I hate being anxious. I hate when I'm not involved in something, when I can't see what's going on, when I'm not in communication with somebody about what's going on. The whole thing makes me intensely uncomfortable and very, very anxious and very nervous. So I said goodbye to him and all of that. And I was really jealous that he was the one that was going into surgery and that it wasn't me and that he wasn't waiting for me instead. I have to tell you that. I could have used the nap and all of those fun meds, but also I just can't stand being on the other side of the door. I hate it. So they said it would be like an hour and a half. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't really want to leave the hospital because the hospital's in this little odd place. And if you guys have ever been to any hospital ever, it's like a maze to find your way through there and find the parking lot that your car is in and all of that stuff. And then to have to go out and get food and then drive back and come back and try and do that all over again was a little much for my little brain. While it was worried about all these other things. And so I decided to just grab a snack at the hospital cafeteria and find a quiet place to sit, which I did. So I did all that stuff. And interesting, guys, though, I had a moment within this moment that I might want to go back to on like a live stream and talk about. But I don't know. I would assume that hospital cafeterias are the same everywhere. I mean, it's cafeteria. So, it's like a big open space and there's all these choices of places and you can self-serve a whole lot of things and all of that. And something about that makes me so fucking nervous, you guys. I don't know what it is. I feel like everybody's watching me. I feel like I'm going to drop things. I feel like I'm going to pick the wrong things and not be able to put it back. Any number of things, right? And it's worse when a cafeteria like that, to me, it's worse for me when it's empty, because then I feel like more people are looking at me because there's no one else to look at. And I don't know, it just makes me all nervous. So I don't know what that's about. I need to play and think about what that's about. And I was thinking about it in that I'm so used to not masking all the time, or I'm really making the effort to not mask as much of my life as possible. And so I think it was a moment of like, oh my God, I should be masking in this situation, or maybe I don't need to, or they all know I'm autistic now because look at me standing in the middle of this cafeteria without knowing what to do. I mean, it was just it was like an anxiety buzz and I was already on an edge. So it was like, so I grabbed chips and a drink and like a quick muffin, and that was it. That's all like my brain could manage in the anxiety. So I did that and I went and I found a quiet place. I had, of course, I always have writing to do. And I had some editing to do also because I'm working on another project. So I was like, all right, brain, you might not be able to create anything right now because you're too busy thinking, but you should be able to focus enough to edit. So that was okay. And so what I did was I found a little quiet corner. We're in the waiting room where I was supposed to be waiting for Antonio. And because there were so few surgeries, there was no one else in that particular waiting room with me. So I had the whole space to myself. And I started to edit. So by the time I sat down to edit, Antonio had already been in surgery for like 45 minutes. So I was like, oh, it's going to be over in like, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 minutes at most, they said, right? So, all right, I'll try and get some done. So I sit down and I start to going. And then, time-wise on the clock, right? He was supposed to be done around 2:30. So I'm sitting down and it's about 2:26. And I'm like, oh, he's going to be done soon. Okay, well, I'll just keep going. Probably it'll go a little longer. Maybe they didn't start right on time and that kind of thing. So I start editing and I'm working on it and 2:30 passes and now it's 2:45. Okay, 2:45, and I'm like, all right, well, this is a little uncomfortable. It's a little long, right? And all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to keep editing. And then it's a few more minutes, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I can't really concentrate on editing anymore. It's a little bit long now. And then all of a sudden, there's this announcement over the the hospital, right? So sometimes they do those announcements if an emergency is coming in and they need particular hands on deck and that kind of thing. So here in Colorado, we have a system called Flight for Life. So when you live up in the mountains or you live really far away from a hospital, if you have an emergency and the folks on the ground assess that it's too urgent for them to try to drive you, they will call Flight for Life, which is a helicopter ambulance essentially, and they take you by helicopter to the hospital. So there was this announcement, Flight for Life was coming in. It was 10 minutes away. Trauma people to the trauma room, like that. And I was like, oh, fuck, this poor people, right? Because here's what the brain does, right? Or at least my brain does. I hear that and immediately I go, oh my God, these poor people, right? This poor person, right? Whatever it is, it's so bad that they had to go into Flight for Life, so they couldn't even make a drive. And I was like, oh, that's so awful. And then the announcement comes over and they say, never mind, Trauma Team 10, forget the trauma room, head to the OR directly. And then I think to myself, oh, this poor person on this helicopter is like, can't even go to a trauma room to be assessed. They just need to go right to the OR, whatever is going on. And I thought, oh, that's so terrible. And then I realized that Antonio was in one of the ORs also, right? When I'm in one of the operating rooms, and I thought, oh shit, I hope this doesn't mess up his surgery or make that take longer or whatever it is. But I knew that this person was fighting for their life. And so whatever it was going to be. So a little bit calmer, but I realized I probably couldn't focus on editing anymore. Let me go ahead and close the computer. So I figured, he's going to be out soon. Close the computer. I'll be all done, right? Well, let me just tell you, it was another 45 minutes before Antonio got out of the operating room, before I saw the doctor, before anybody. And by the time, so it was like an hour and 15 minutes longer in surgery than he was supposed to be. So by the time that clock went around to that, I was on another level of panic. I was having panic attacks. I was like, my brain was doing that thing where it goes so far into the future to give you panic attacks. That's what was happening. So my brain was going, oh my goodness, what if something happened while he was in there and I just don't know yet, right? Like what if they found something in his finger that's worse than it was, and what if they had to amputate his finger and they're just waiting to come out here and tell me that they had to amputate his finger? Or what if something worse than that? What if he had a reaction to the anesthesia and something happened under anesthesia and now he's dead? Right? And so while this is going on inside my head, and I of course now have to pee emergency, because that's what happens, your whole body just goes into emergency state, right? So I go down to go to the bathroom and I'm just like, I don't even know. Like I know he talked to his mom this morning, but I think he told her he was having surgery today. How do I even make that phone call if I have to make that phone call to his mom? Oh, and I was like, this is so awful. This is so awful. This is so awful. So I peed and I came back out into the waiting room. And the way that they have it is they don't want you going into the OR as a normal human. They want you to either be escorted by someone from the hospital, or you have to have a special pass, or be a doctor or whatever, a hospital employee. It's big signs all over the doors. Don't go through unless you have an escort, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And there are those automatic doors that like you push and then they open and they stay open for a bit and then they close on their own. Okay. So now my brain is going, well, fuck that. I will push this button and go back there. I don't care, right? Because that's where my brain goes in emergencies. And Antonio hates that about me when I get like that in an emergency and get all pushy in New York about it. So I was trying to contain myself and not be like a crazy wife. So I waited just a few more minutes and then I said, okay, I won't go through the door just in case it sets off some kind of alarm or something like that. I don't know. But I am going to do a crazy thing and call the hospital. So I picked up my cell phone and I was getting routed through the system to get to the OR, which was who I wanted to talk to. Figured they could tell me what was going on or something, at least why it was taking so long. And I'm like on the phone listening to that system. And all of a sudden someone from the outside pushed the button and the door opens. And I'm like, oh my God. And like, you know, when you see so silly to tell the story. You see on like television when people like slide through a closing door and just barely make it through, right? Well, that's what was happening. I'm like, I'm going to run for it. I'm going to run through the open doors and just poke my head around the corner and see if I can see someone and that person can tell me what's going on. I didn't open the door, so I didn't break the rules. Someone else opened the door. So I grabbed my stuff and I'm ready to run through the door. And I'm picking up speed, right? And I'm going, and poof, Antonio's doctor comes through the doors. He came right through the doors. He was the one that opened the door. And I practically knocked him over coming through. And I was like, oh my God, thank God it's you. Because at this point I was already like panicked. Whew. So the doctor came out and he comes, and you know, when they come over to you and see, I've been through this. And the one thing, this is the time of surgeries that I hate the most, because it was the time that I received the worst information ever in my life. So when my mom had her biopsy and had to have exploratory surgery to see if she had pancreatic cancer, I was there, of course, and it was like a little short endoscopy. That's really all they did. So she was under twilight sleep. It was a really short thing. But while she was waking up, the doctor came out to tell me that they found pancreatic cancer and that she had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. We needed to immediately get to an oncologist like that day, if not the next day. Like that was the information that I received before my mom woke up. And so every time the doctor, and you know, I'm in that situation where it's after an emergency and I'm standing there with the doctor and they're ready to report to me, I just am like I go into another space in my brain. So, and he put all his stuff down, like it wasn't a quick report. He put his stuff down first and I was like, oh my fucking God, I can't handle this. Dude, just tell me what the fuck happened. So he finally told me what happened. Everything was fine. But what they did do is they went in, they were going to pin the bone together because it wasn't touching. So it was like this, there was space in between. So the bone couldn't reconnect. So they were going to pin it together so that the bone could reconnect and it could heal properly and in the right shape. Fine. Well, I went in to do that. And what the doctor found was that there was some tissue between the two bones, which is why they wouldn't heal together. There was something separating them. And he also found out that the tendons on the top part of Antonio's finger, so that here, right, had actually torn during his fall and break. So they had to repair the tendons at the top of his finger here, as well as secure the bone. And so it was extra long surgery because they found this injury. Do wish somebody had kind of like poked their head out and said, hey, we found this thing. It's going to be a little longer. That would have been nice, but they're busy in there in surgery. And who's going to stop to do all of that for me? Nobody. And so it's going to be a little bit longer, his healing, and it's going to be a little bit physical therapy and a little bit stuff like that than we thought. But surgery is over. Antonio came home with me. I have never been more grateful to drive home with another human being in my car. Okay. I was just so grateful it was over, so grateful to be home. But if I tell you that on top of all the story that I told you, of course, remember that I'm still autistic, and do remember that I was in a hospital. So all the beeps and noises, all the lighting, all the sounds, all the smells, all of that fun stuff was just eating away at me all day. But of course, when we're in that space, right, and we're having to care for someone and we're nervous, the adrenaline covers that up. And so you don't feel it eating you up. Well, by the time we got home last night, I was like, done. Like nobody asked me for anything else. Done like that. That was when I was like, maybe I should just cancel the growing gratitude, because I can't imagine getting up and doing this in the morning. So I didn't, though, because look at how much I had to be grateful for. Look how wonderful his doctor was. Look how amazingly kind people were at the hospital. It was quiet there. They helped us on a Saturday, you guys, on a Saturday. And like, I wasn't in a New York hospital during a pandemic. I was in a Colorado hospital in a pandemic, which is like, there was like, for New York, there would probably be 6 people for every 1 person there was in the Colorado hospital. So there was just so many things to be grateful for. The kindness of people around here, the kindness of my neighbors coming to walk the dogs, the fact that Antonio was fine and his finger will eventually be probably 80% fine, and he will be functional and not in pain, and all of these things. And so there was so much to be grateful for. How could I not do gratitude? How can I not take them? This is exactly why gratitude exists, for these moments when our lives feel so shitty and we are so tired and can't imagine fighting another battle or being resilient for another fucking day. That is what gratitude is for, because when you can pause and stop and realize that we could have been in that flight for life. We could have been in a car and I could have been driving him in, not breathing like that man, right? Any number of those things could have happened, but that's not why we were there. And that's not what happened. And that alone is something to be grateful for, right? So like, we have to just be grateful. We have to take these moments, even when we're most exhausted. And often when we're most exhausted is when we need the gratitude the most. And so I'm here because I have to do this for me, for my well-being, but also to set an example for you guys, because when we push through, we can figure out how to balance. For example, yesterday was a spoon stealer. I knew it was going to be before that. I know today I'm going to be paying the price for it. It's just the facts. It's not that it was something I could have avoided or something I didn't have a choice to do or I could have said no to or whatever. It was something that I had to do. And when we know that, what we need to do is take care the next day. So today, literally, this is what I'm doing. This is it. I'm doing gratitude with you guys, and then I'm sitting around in my pajamas. I'm not showering. I'm going to eat and drink and take care of myself and nap, do whatever I have to. And I do have work that I could be doing. And of course, my brain wants to say, don't lay around, Beck. You could be writing. You could be editing what you didn't finish yesterday and get it to people a day early and whatever, that kind of thing. And, you know, I can't, because that's not how to be sustainable. That's not me. Won't make for sustainable me for this week. What it will mean is I'll be chasing my tail for the rest of the week if I don't recoup right now. So that's what I'm doing for the rest of today. I'm going to spend time with Antonio, grateful that I have to help him with stuff and that he's home for me to help him with stuff, and spend some time with my animals, watch some TV, read a bunch, and just in general, have a spoil me day today, because I'll get back to work tomorrow and I'll get everybody everything they need tomorrow. But today I need to take care of myself, because yesterday was rough. It was rough on me mentally. It was rough on me physically. But it was something I had to do. And now I can breathe because Antonio's home and he's been cared for. And that was the most important thing. So much for my short growing gratitude this morning. It's already 25 minutes long, but I needed to tell you the whole story, because the whole story has all those components and pieces in it for where the gratitude comes in and for when it's important to have it. And so I wanted you guys to hear all that. I see you guys have had some really crappy hospital experiences as well, which is why I no longer disclose in medical settings, which is probably why I was so worried that everyone was going to know I was autistic standing in a room, because I don't like to disclose in those situations. what ends up happening is, people talk to me like I'm a child all of a sudden, or I'm stupid all of a sudden, or I don't understand how things work all of a sudden. And that's not true. And I need that information, and I need it to make smart choices about my life, and I need it to make smart choices about my autism. And so in order to get all the information that I need, I choose not to disclose, right? I think that we need training in our medical schools. We need folks to, to overy up. Somebody said that the other day. I thought it was, I was watching The Magicians, and she said that we need to overy up, right? We need to balls up, whatever you want to say, and realize that our medical professionals need a little bit more training about this stuff. And until then, I probably won't disclose until it's my big mouth yelling in medical schools about how they need to be listening to us differently. But anyway, we will deal with that on a separate day. Today was all about just being grateful to be home with Antonio with his finger fixed, having survived the hospital, and I'm now home. And that's what I'm grateful for today. That is my big gratitude, you guys. I don't have spoons for much else today, so I probably won't see you out and about on the interwebs today, but I will probably see you out and about on the interwebs for the rest of the week. So you can look for me there. You can always comment wherever you see this video. And of course, if you enjoy my content, you can head over to Ko-Fi and support this and future content with me. Or you can head over to the Self-Defined Living store and get yourself a Self-Defined Living t-shirt from Redbubble, or any number of things. But of course, your thumbs up and your thumbs down are what mean the most, as well as your shares. They let me know that I'm doing the right thing here and that I should keep doing it. With that, you guys, go enjoy the rest of your Sunday, the rest of your weekend. Create joy, seek joy, share joy. Get out there and make the most of your day. And of course, take a few minutes to just think about the things you're grateful for today. Really important to just, for our mental health, that we remember that there are good things going on around us all the time. I will see you guys on Tuesday for Being Back Alive. And then, of course, I'll be back next Sunday for the next Growing Gratitude. So I will see you guys out there. Have an amazing Sunday. Take care of yourself, as I am going to do. Bye.